Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to connect some pretty big dots. Things like a war happening thousands of miles away, a currency that's on a bit of a roller coaster, and some huge bets that are shaping the future of the Indian economy. So, let's dive right in.
All right, so here's the deal. We're going to untangle this really complex web today. We'll look at how a war that's far away is sending shockwaves through India's economy, creating some serious crises right at home, and forcing companies to basically throw out their old playbooks and start fresh.
Okay, so first things first, let's talk about the biggest shock from the outside, that conflict in the Middle East. You might think it's far away, but its ripple effects, they're being felt big time, hitting India right where it hurts, in its super crucial energy and currency markets.
And just take a look at these numbers. It's kind of wild. In just 1 month, this conflict completely flipped India's energy strategy on its head. You can see oil coming from the Middle East it was more than cut in half. At the same time, imports from Russia nearly doubled, hitting a 9-month high. I mean, that is a massive and super fast shift for the country's most critical import.
So, with all this instability, what happens? Well, it puts a ton of pressure on the currency. Economists are actually predicting the rupee could slide all the way to 97 per dollar if this whole thing keeps going. Now, a drop like that, it means everything we import, from the fuel in our cars to the phones in our pockets, gets more expensive. And that, of course, fuels inflation right here at home.
Now, in the middle of all this economic strain, the government is, projecting a message of calm and control. Prime Minister Modi has said that strong foreign policy and the unity of the people are what's helping steer the country through these really turbulent global waters.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit and zoom in on one sector that's really feeling the heat from every direction: aviation. It's honestly the perfect example of how these big, broad economic pressures create some very real turbulence, on the ground.
So right at the top of India's aviation regulator, that's the DGCA, or the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, there's a big leadership change. Vikram Yadav is taking over the pilot's seat, so to speak, from Faiz Ahmed Kidwai. And let's just say Kidwai is moving on after a very challenging time for the industry.
And this really shows you the mountain of challenges the new chief is inheriting. I mean, the last guy's tenure was just marked by one high-profile crisis after another. We're talking about a tragic Air India crash, an audit that found major safety problems, that scheduling meltdown at Indigo, and a fatal chartered plane accident. A parliamentary report even called all of this systemic fragilities. Not a great report card.
So here's the real kicker. These aren't just one-off problems. They're deep, institutional challenges making everything worse. The DGCA itself is dealing with a massive staff shortage. Get this, it's operating with almost half its positions empty. And that, as you can imagine, seriously hurts its ability to keep an eye on things right when that oversight is needed most.
All right, let's zoom back out for a second. This whole theme of a changing of the guard isn't just happening in government agencies. We're seeing it play out in India's corporate boardrooms, too. And it's a sign of a much deeper shift happening across the entire business landscape.
Check out this chart. It tells a really interesting story. The influence of civil servants, bureaucrats, on corporate boards is at a 13-year low. About a decade back, they held around 5.5% of board seats. Now, that's dropped to just under 4%. That's a pretty significant change in how companies are being run.
So why is this happening? Well, experts like Amit Tandon suggest it's because the economy itself is changing. As these new-age tech and service companies, which, by the way, are way less regulated, start to dominate, the need to have a bureaucrat on your board to help you navigate all the red tape, that need just isn't as strong as it used to be.
Okay, so in this environment where everything seems to be changing all the time, how are companies actually adapting? The answer is they're basically rewriting their playbooks on the fly, just trying to survive, compete, and maybe even grow in this whole new world.
Let's take the pharma world, for example. We're seeing some really aggressive moves. Novo Nordisk is slashing prices on its huge blockbuster drugs Ozempic and Wegovy. We're talking price cuts of up to 36 and even 48%. And they're doing this to fight off the competition from all the cheaper generics popping up.
But it's not just about price wars, Some companies are changing their entire business model. Look at EdTech. You've got Upgrad, a company that was born and raised online, now making this huge push into the real physical world. So far, they've opened 23 offline learning centers.
And they are not stopping there. Their ambition is pretty clear. They want to more than double that number, aiming for 50 centers within the next year alone. This whole clicks-to-bricks strategy, it shows they're listening and responding directly to a real demand for a mix of online and in-person learning.
And what's super interesting here is just how targeted this whole strategy is. The company's COO basically laid it out. They are laser-focused on young graduates, people between 21 and 26, who want to get practical, job-ready skills. And it turns out that's a group that really values having some in-person, structured learning.
So, okay, despite all these pressures we've been talking about, it's not like India is just sitting back and playing defense. Not at all. It's also making some huge forward-looking bets on technology to really power that next wave of economic growth.
I mean, look at 5G. Its adoption is just explosive. By 2025, it's expected that nearly half of all mobile data traffic will be on 5G networks, and 90% of new smartphones will be 5G ready. The projections are just staggering. India's 5G subscriber base could blow past 1 billion by 2031.
And this forward-looking vibe, it doesn't stop at our phones. It goes all the way up to space. You have a European satellite giant Eutelsat that's now in talks with ISRO for future launches. Their CEO even said that getting access to the Indian market is a huge strategic goal. That really tells you something about India's growing importance in the global space race. So, all of this leaves us with one final thought to chew on. As India navigates these very real, very current crises, from wars messing with fuel prices to actual turbulence in the skies, it's these big strategic bets on tomorrow's tech, from 5G on the ground to satellites in orbit, that might just be what defines its entire path forward.